Russia's President Vladimir Putin has signed into law a bill barring Americans from adopting Russian children. The new Russian law also bars non-governmental political organizations receiving funding from the United States. It comes as a response to a US law which targets Russians accused of human rights violations and corruption.
Cindy and Dennis Boyer were just weeks away from adopting baby Adeline. They met the almost 2-year-old recently as they visited her Russian orphanage. But now, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has signed a law that despite mounds of paperwork and thousands of dollars already spent, all of the more than 1,500 adoptions to American families currently underway and any future adoptions are permanently canceled.
She's ready for a home. She's ready for a family. She's ready to be loved.
Why the new adoption law signed so publicly? Russian authorities say some of the adopted have been abused or died. One unruly boy was even sent back on a plane alone to Russia.
Russia's upper house of parliament voted unanimously in favour of the anti-adoption law, which will come into force on the 1st of January. Putin says the vast majority of Russians are opposed to foreign adoptions. But adoption agencies such as New Hope Christian Services say it's needy children who'll suffer. It's very sad. It's no secret that most children are adopted by people in the US. Those children will otherwise remain here. The move has sparked outrage from human rights organizations.
It's not surprising that there's political retribution, that there's a political tit for tat. That's not surprising. You know, but what's shocking is that they're putting the well-being of children at risk for the sake of political retribution, and that has to stop.
Earlier this month, Washington passed the US Magnitsky Act. It blacklists a number of Russian officials that the US deems responsible for the death of anti-corruption lawyer Sergei Magnitsky in 2009. A thorn in the side of the Russian government, Magnitsky claimed to have uncovered a huge web of corruption involving the state tax authorities.
Well, there had been hopes the Russian president would hold back and water down this extremely controversial legislation, but that obviously didn't happen. Vladimir Putin signing into law that ban on adoptions of Russian orphans by families in the United States. It leaves many severely disappointed, not least the prospective parents, but also the dozens of Russian children who are currently right in the middle of that very complex adoption process. Well, speaking after he signed the ban, President Putin said that new Russian families for those kids must now be found.
As far as I know from opinion polls, the vast majority of Russian citizens are very negative about foreigners adopting our children. We need to do it ourselves. We need ourselves to stimulate, bringing to the family those children who are orphans or who are left without parental care.
But few are under any illusions that this is entirely about child welfare. The adoption ban was intended as retaliation for the US Magnitsky Act, a law recently signed by President Obama, aimed at sanctioning Russian officials connected allegedly in some way in custody in 2009 of Sergei Magnitsky, a Russian tax lawyer who uncovered a massive tax fraud amongst Russian officials. Analysts say the Kremlin had been trying to formulate an appropriate response to that, and this adoption ban is essentially what they came up with.